start by defining 21st century skills, because I think it is such a broad term that it can mean so many things to so many people. So let me start with Michael Wesch. He's a anthropologist from Kansas State University. In a recent interview with Campus Technology, he said, as a society, we're headed towards ubiquitous computing, ubiquitous communication, ubiquitous information at unlimited speed about everything, everywhere, and from anywhere of all kinds, on all kinds of devices. Futurists may disagree on how we get there, but everyone agrees that we're going there, and that means that it's now ridiculously easy to connect, organize, share, collaborate, and publish with anybody to anybody in the world. At the foundation of what they call 21st century skill are the 3 R's. Now you have your reading, your writing, and your arithmetic, even though they're not 3 R's, but that's 3 R's. And on top of that, they argue that you have to have your 4 C's, which is your creativity, your communication, your critical thinking, and your collaboration. And then, so above the 3 R's, the 4 C's, what we'll be talking about today are the 3 L's, which is information literacy, media literacy, and technological literacy. Let me start with information literacy. So to be information literate, according to the American Library Association, is a person who so to be information literate, a person must be able to recognize when information is needed and has the ability to locate, evaluate, and use effectively the needed information. According to the National Forum on Information Literacy, which is a spin-off of the American Library Association, they talk about information literacy as referring to a constellation of competencies revolving around information research, use, and practice across all occupations and professions. It is the foundation for effective lifelong learning, practice, personal and professional empowerment. And then there was one study, two professors from the Fielding Graduate University, they basically define information literacy as a new liberal art that extends from knowing how to use computers and access information to critical reflection of the nature of information itself, its technical infrastructure, and its social, cultural, and philosophical context and impact. So in short, information literacy is about recognizing, understanding, applying, evaluating, using, reflecting, and ultimately creating new knowledge and new information. It mirrors the Bloom's taxonomy. If you follow that, it's sort of essential part of the 21st century skills. Multimedia literacy. It's a repertoire of competence that enables people to analyze, evaluate, and create messages in a wide variety of media modes, genres, and forms, according to Wikipedia. The ability to access, understand, analyze, evaluate, and create media messages on television, the internet, cell phones, social media, and other communication technologies. That's the National Forum for Information Literacy. And in short, information literacy and multimedia literacy are of the same, but they're different because it's the medium in which it takes place. It's the ability to leverage the medium of all these new media and be able to communicate in an impactful way. And as you can see on the top right there, it's a video of the Dear Michelle campaign that was done here at UC Merced a couple of years ago by students, and it essentially is the example of students with multimedia literacy, the ability to create something like that. And so the success involved a YouTube video, a Facebook campaign. It was on the Twitter field, Twitter cloud, emails, and of course the traditional pen and paper Valentine's Day cards that went with that. So, and then finally, technological literacy. It's the ability to use effectively a variety of information and communication technologies and programs, software and hardware, in the workplace and in the classroom. That's the most simple definition. And it's also about the ability to have computer skills and to use those skills in ways to improve learning, for productivity, and also for performance. There are competing operating systems out there, as you know. Macs and Apple is the most obvious, but you have sort of the iOS and Android and all sorts of new technologies that are competing. So how does one go about choosing the appropriate tool for the task at hand? How are wikis different from blogs? And how are blogs different from Google Docs? And why do you use one and not the other? When do you use what? If you're a Windows user, are you able to navigate through a Mac computer and vice versa? Those kinds of basic questions are very, I think, pertinent in our generation. So information literacy, multimedia literacy, and technological literacy are sort of the three main focus of our discussions today. So let me introduce our panelists. So I have Jason Ryder here. He's a video and multimedia producer from the University Relations Department on campus. And his primary responsibility, if you will, is to sort of tell the UC Merced story to the people outside of UC Merced, and including potential students and faculty and donors, most importantly donors, I guess. And to tell that story in such a way that it gives people a sense of what our campus is about, what we're trying to do here, and why should they invest their time and money. We also have Tom Hothem. He's the assistant director of the Merit Writing Program, the coordinator for Core 1. And he has a keen interest, I think, in helping students navigate the digital world. Last semester, he helped with a workshop on reading in the digital age, and I think that was a very important and insightful session. And I think it's something that I think he and I will continue to have a discussion about in terms of what does the digital age mean in terms of learning and reading and writing and so on. And then last but not least, we have Susan Mikkelsen from the library. She's the resource access and instructional librarian, and the primary job is to help faculty, students, and staff navigate the plethora of information that is just never ceasing in our library and beyond. All right, so the first set of questions essentially is revolving what comes to mind when you hear the phrase 21st century skills. And I have some sub-questions here, like how do you engage with the information, multimedia and technological literacy in your own personal and or professional life? And was there a turning point or poignant moment in your own personal journey acquiring these new literacies that you'd like to share? So, anybody want to start?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure where to begin. There's so many ways to go about this. I guess I could go about this panel anyway. I'm just not sure how to start it. But I guess having said that, I should try to find something. Well, I guess there are a lot of ways to go about kind of thinking about 21st century skills, but one of them for me is a kind of a affordance model or allowance model. It's more historically in touch in some regards, that to remember that the kinds of things that we're dealing with today are really not essentially new in the way that we've dealt with media over the years. In fact, there may have been eras in time where people were much better at being multimediated than they have been over the past, say, 500 years with the advent of print and the kind of monomediation of print. But that said, I guess, for me, it's a lot of kind of accepting what I do to navigate media that I have learned to internalize, and to externalize that in the classroom, and to go through the process of what it means when you turn off the television and you're going watching YouTube videos, and you're looking something up on Wikipedia, you're shopping on eBay. We do all these things kind of unconsciously. We don't really make them foci. But that is a knowledge, I guess, is what I'm driving at, and to really acknowledge that the way that we deal with the form of media, as to reference McLuhan kind of clumsily, is as much an important thing as the content, if not even more important these days. We focus on content for so long, we need to understand form, and I'm still struggling with that, really. So.
Well, I guess on mine for video and media creation, it's the world basically just got really, really big, but in essence, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. We're doing it over and over again, and basically, in essence, I'm a storyteller, and the way in which I tell a story is, or the way I create a story, come up with a story is the same. Trying to get into the mind of the audience and give them what they want, but how I can make that now has changed drastically in that when I started out 20 years ago with a home video camera, having tape, the pros were using cameras that were, you know, $100,000. Edit systems were $300,000. You can basically buy an iPhone now and shoot it and ship it directly. So what that means then is that there's a ton of schlock, a ton of junk. So that the stories are getting lost and people are forgetting how to tell the stories, or that there's even a story to tell. So that's kind of what I've had to deal with, and that's kind of what I try to get across to people that I'm mentoring, is that you know, tried and true story is still the basis of everything that we try to do. And then once you get back to that, you realize that the fancy cameras and all the junk is it's just another tool. You know, it's cool to get excited about the gizmo, but the story comes first, and then using the power of the technology to ship it out there and get it to the right audience. That's kind of what it is about for me and what I do. So,
Well, I guess I'm sort of representing the information literacy part of this panel. So I think when I think about 21st century skills and information literacy, it's very hard to decouple those from technological literacy. And especially here at UC Merced, when our library is primarily digital, there's a big intersection of those skills. And so we think of information literacy and all of the skills needed for that, but they're entirely dependent on the technology. So a couple of examples of that are, most of our books are ebooks, and ebooks require the technology to use them, and they're not always that easy to navigate. So that brings in the component that we have to actually teach our students how to navigate some of those. Even things like accessing library materials from off-campus requires you to be able to download the VPN software to your computer, which I think we take for granted that most people know how to do that, but they really don't. And so I think that's a big part of what we see as librarians is students who are expected to acquire information literacy skills when they don't necessarily have the technology skills that they need to go about doing that. So I don't know if you wanted to talk, go ahead about personal and professional lives and our aha moments. But I went back to grad school 12 years ago as a mature student. And I didn't have very many technology skills. And I remember the first lab I sat in where there were all these younger folks around me just doing amazing things on the computer, and I was very intimidated. And so now I can look back at that and smile, but I remember what it felt like, and it didn't feel very good. So I really understand when our students come in without some of those skills that they're being expected to have. And so that was an aha moment for me in terms of my commitment to try to help students navigate the learning of the technology in order to learn the other things that they need to learn. And now that I am 12 years beyond that point, I use technology in everything. We shop online, we use QR codes. I did something sort of embarrassing. Last summer we were having a family reunion and we were trying to decide about the dates. And so I did what I always do at work is I sent out a doodle poll. And most of my family members were not understanding what, I didn't realize how much I'm exposed to things that people outside of jobs like we fortunately have, they're not familiar with those things. So that kind of was a little reality check.